Cool. Welcome back again to the Indie State. You already know what it is, man. I am the Sound Sangoma. Today I have a very special guest, Mr. Nubian. How you doing, bro?
I'm alright, man. How are you doing?
I am blessed. This is an honor to be, sitting here. I've been seeing some great things that you're working on. Who's Nubian? For those who don't know, who's Nubian? Let us in.
Nubian is first the producer, I would say, turned into DJing. Because, I mean, as a producer, you have to find a way to get your work out there eventually. So, DJing became pretty much that. And I just started enjoying DJing as a whole because it's just a whole different art because it's less about the songs and more about just being responsible for having a whole room of people
Okay.
depend on you
Creating
for
the
a good
vibe.
time. Yeah.
Well. So where did this start? Where did the love of music start?
It started in high school, you know. Funny enough, in grade six for career day, I wore an outfit saying I wanted to be a sound engineer.
Wow.
Didn't have any idea that I was going to get into music at the time. I mean, I was 12. And then later on, life just, like directed me into,
That direction.
yeah, the direction of sound, So I ended up getting Fruity Loops like everyone else at the time and, learning how to make beats and also turned into a rapper for some point. And then I just got tired of asking for beats or paying for beats. And I was like, let me actually start making my own.
For sure.
And from making my own, I was like, actually, I'll just stick to the beats.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So who would you say was kind of like your early inspiration? Like who were the people you were looking up to?
Um, wow, where do I even begin? Hey, I'd say in terms of like big artists, your Vinny Da Vinci's, your Christos, your, like the deep house OGs
Oh,
that
for sure.
everyone was listening to back in the day. I mean, even like listening to DJ Kent was a big thing, like on 5FM on Fridays. We do a lot of that. But in terms of locally around me, there's this guy called Clumsy Phil. So yeah, he was like a crate digger, would basically like sample of vinyl and stuff. So that was the one guy who would mentor me back in the day to be like, yo man, this is how you make beats
Okay.
and this is how you sample and all of that stuff. So I'd say he more like pushed me in the direction of beat making.
Okay.
And yeah, you know. I would say I'm
Okay.
a producer today because of Clumsy Phil, actually.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing, so you started producing before the DJ
Yes,
and
definitely.
actually the rapping first.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. And then the beat making because you didn't want to pay for beats, and then
yeah.
cool. And then when did you transition from the rapping, making the beats to deep house festival,
Yes,
right?
I was
Oh,
attending the
okay.
festival. So I was not even like thinking about DJing at all at that point. I was just
Okay.
there out with friends. And also, I didn't know any of the songs. So I couldn't be biased about what's a good song or what's a bad song. So it was more like I felt the music,
Okay.
and what I felt was just undeniable. Whereas when I left the festival, I was like, the next time I come back here, I need to
To
be
be
on the
safe.
other side and be playing.
No, for sure. Now
Yeah.
I hear your influences is a lot of like local people, which is very good. I like that. Which leads to my next question. We're gonna get into the serious things a
Okay.
little bit. So before I get to the I know that you're studying sound engineering now.
Yeah.
You're about to finish your studies as sound engineer. Is there a specific reason why you chose to do sound engineering? Did you just wanted a qualification, or was there a reason for you to do it, maybe to better your music or anything?
Yeah, the first initial goal was to better my music.
Okay.
But as soon as I started studying, it became bigger than that because I started looking at all the avenues like beyond music of what I could do, I mean, film, radio, broadcasting, and all that other stuff. So I think the studies kind of broadened my view of what I can do with sound.
Okay.
But it started off from music, definitely.
So you make deep house, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So this might sound like an ignorant question, but I have to ask this question. I've been asking a lot of like deep house guys because I hear there's different kind of like there's Afrotech, there's deep house, there's soulful, there's tribal.
Yeah.
What is the difference? What makes the difference between, let me say, Afrotech and deep house? What would you say is the difference?
Um, I mean, like they're very similar in a sense of like around the same BPM. But
Okay.
I would say with Afrotech, it's more techno influenced, so more like drama, if you will, like
Okay.
more crazy synthesizers, bass lines, and whatever. And I guess the Afro aspect of it is more like the percussions usually and the vocals, just like African drums, like African vocals, like singing in vernac
Okay.
or, whatever African language actually. And deep house is more subtle, I would say, like with deep house for me, like less is more. It's just
Okay.
very much slower, less dramatic, but it's more of a deeper feeling, just like bass lines that just touch you in your soul,
Okay.
But yeah, you'd have to listen to the two to
To the
just
truth, you
kind
kind of
of,
got to get the idea.
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting because now I want to go back. I jump out a lot,
Yeah.
That's because I need to find out. You told me that the first time you kind of like fell in love with like deep house and actually DJing was when you went to a festival. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to know where you from? Where you from in SA?
I was born in Polokwane in Limpopo.
Yeah.
And then towards high school, I moved to Pretoria,
Okay.
which is, I guess, where the love for music got molded, because Pretorians love music,
Yeah.
like a lot of music, and there's a lot of history and heritage in Pretoria as well with
For
regards
sure.
to deep house specifically and jazz as well, So I just grew up around a lot of people that were obsessed with music at
Oh.
the time,
Okay.
Yeah.
Nah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So you said you moved when you were going to high school to Pretoria, right? So that's where most of your influence kind of come from.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say in if we're talking about the state of music right now in SA? We can be specific with deep house,
Yeah.
in terms of being able to sustain itself. Is it a very sustainable industry? How do people, function in the industry in terms of like putting each other on and having a circles where people are together? Is it a difficult thing to crack it or is it a simple thing to crack it?
Um, I mean, it's a bit of both, because I would say that it's easy in a sense of like, if you want to make music, you could just make it, right?
For sure.
And put it out.
For sure.
But it's difficult in the sense of like, I mean, even me as a DJ, I thought all I had to do was just learn how to DJ and be good at it. But there's a lot of also like networking that gets involved, like just going out, meeting organizers, meeting promoters, and creating a relationship. Because there's so many artists out there. What is it about you that makes them remember you out of all these hundreds or thousands of artists
For
that
sure.
are in the same city,
For sure.
So yeah, it's difficult in that sense of relationships because a lot of musicians are introverted, like you'd rather just
Right.
stay in studio and make your music, but you need to get it out there, but not in the sense of just putting it out on Spotify, but like knowing the people that playlist or sending promos out to DJs so that they play your songs, So it's a lot of networking, I'd say, outside of the actual art in itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges that you have faced in getting into the industry? Or some of the things that you have noticed that could be changed or could be better?
I mean, I guess my challenge for me was just finding a platform to play, really, because I mean, promoters are usually looking at it from a business angle in terms of like they're trying to sell tickets,
For sure.
So they're going to get the big names. And if you're up and coming, it's tough to get a platform or get a set, even if never mind an opening set, but just the set in general, whereas you're given like at least an hour to showcase your skills. So that has been difficult for me because you never really know where to start. I mean, like you go to pubs, you go to restaurants, before you even get to like actual events where you're booked to getting paid, you know. So yeah, it's just a lot of groundwork that you need to do, you know, like even before we start having a conversation about money, you know,
Money.
like
Okay, so networking is still the biggest thing that you will say people must do a lot.
yeah, I think in this country we can all agree it's most of the time who you know.
Sorry for interrupting you there. I say
Mm.
that because I see a lot of people using like a lot of like overseas record labels to release their music.
Yeah.
Is that something that's part of the industry, or does it, how, what can you say about them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's very much alike in that sense because I mean, these are the big cities, your Joburg, Cape Town,
For
you
sure.
know, I know like Durban is coming up as well, you
For
know,
sure.
but yeah, you just need to be around the space, I guess, to also like be inspired, number one, but also to be around the media hubs, you know, like, so, I mean, you've got your SABCs here in Joburg and, you know, your multi choices. So this is pretty much the city where you kind of have to be to make the networks that I was talking about earlier on to meet, you know, somebody who's like running a podcast or something or runs events, you know, and like also Joburg and Cape Town runs most events in
For
general.
sure.
So if you want to showcase your talent, then you kind of need to be closer to the source.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that makes a whole lot of sense. So in terms of getting back to the production of the music itself, um, might be a silly question to ask. Which of the two do you enjoy the most, making the music or playing the music to the people?
Yeah, that's a hard question. um, yeah, I'd say making the music because that is where the original feeling stems from, you know, and playing it rather is just more like reminiscing on the feeling, but making it is when the feeling is still raw. And, you know, so I'd say I love producing more
Okay, so
than
let's get
playing.
a little bit more into the producing. So first thing first, if you're an engineer watching this, you're probably gonna understand. If you're not an engineer, I'm sorry, but you'll still get a little bit of it. So production, what DAW are you using to produce your music?
So I use Ableton. That's,
Why
yeah,
specifically Ableton?
it's what I started on actually. Like
Wow,
the first MIDI controller I bought came with an Ableton license.
wow,
And for some reason, I thought that you could only use it with Ableton, that specific controller. So
controller. So it was
yeah, so I just learned and then only later found out that actually you can use it on Fruity Loops or anything else. But like, I mean, I
okay.
guess just not having the knowledge, you just work with what you have. And what I had was Ableton.
Is there a process that you follow when you're producing music, or is just you going from field and just
Yeah, I mean, with deep house, it's like if I'm not dancing, then it's probably not it. Eh?
not it?
You know, yeah. So I need to feel the groove when I'm making it, and then I can probably tell that this is
Okay.
something.
You collaborating with other artists, producers?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I've collaborated with Ronnie Deep. You know,
Shout
still
out.
got something coming out soon. Um, Deep Aztec. You know, yeah. So just a lot of guys that are also still unknown that are working on their craft.
Okay.
But for the stuff I'm about to drop later on, or like my first project, so to say,
Yeah.
it's just going to be primarily solo because I want the listener to just get a sense of who Nubian is. You
Okay.
know,
What is the new project? What
it's called Blue Escapades.
does it have a date of release already, or we just
Hopefully by the end of the year, you
hopefully
know,
by
so
the end
no
of the?
date yet. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What kind of sound are we getting from the? If you can, you know.
I mean, with this project, it's more for the floor, I would say, you know,
Okay.
for the
For the
clubs,
clubs.
just yeah, for people to move their bodies to, you know, yeah. So it's a lot of that. Like it's just more a feeling of feeling good, you know, because I realized after making, I used to be the type of guy that makes beats every day,
For sure.
but I realized that I was losing touch of the feeling aspect of it because, like, that's the secret to most songs, like the feeling. So nowadays, I produce less and go more with like inspiration, and if I feel it up a certain way, then
And
I'd
you want
focus all my energy on that.
okay, I hear what you're saying. So, I mean, we in South Africa, right? And right now, we have this genre called Mapiano in South Africa, which is taking over the world.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of producers who are defaulting in terms of because they're seeing the success of Mapiano, they feel like they have to. And having a conversation with you, even offline, sometime, you don't seem to be really thinking about it or not even phased about that.
Yeah.
Where's your mental state when it comes to that? Are you making music because you love making the music and everything else will come later, or you know that what you're making is what you have to make? You don't have to chase the trend, So where's your mental?
Yeah, I think first I'm making it because I love it, And I mean, even with genres like I'm a piano, like I remember it at a time where it wasn't as big as it is right now, But those that made I'm a piano still made it because they loved making it.
For sure.
And look where it is right now,
Yeah,
It's international now.
for
So
sure.
I feel like the approach when making music, you should never really make it for the people, if it is good music, like people will naturally gravitate towards it, you know.
So I hear a lot of people, especially DJs, especially in the dance um, industry, talking about essays like the dance capital of the world. I mean, we have exported a lot of like really, really dope dance producers, DJs.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that is? Why do you feel that South Africa has that people tend to gravitate towards in terms of dance music?
I think maybe it has to do with the history
Okay.
in like Africa, and just like in terms of music has always been a way to heal people,
For
when they're
sure.
going through tough times. And given what this country's been through, I feel like music was one of the things that we had in order to just soften the pain, that we're going through. So like naturally music is healing, So I think in terms of South Africa and it being a capital, it only made sense that, we enjoy music as a country. And also like the fact that South Africa is so multiracial at the same time, like you get Indian, white people, colored people, and like even some people from overseas that come and settle here, So I think it's different influences that have come into the country that
Hmm.
contribute towards like the music industry as a whole.
That's interesting because I was having a conversation with another guy and we were talking about different genres. You know how different genres can be very, not traditional, but very specific to a demographic of people.
Yeah,
And I feel like dance kind of like bridges that gap where you're still gonna get dances that are very extreme from both sides,
yeah.
like your tribal or you're gonna go techno electronic. But do you feel like dance kind of like bridges that gap where you could be in a festival and there could be an equal number of whatever race in that and everybody will have fun?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Because I mean, dance music for me, I feel like it's universal in the sense that it does one thing, it makes you dance,
Yeah,
and with that, like, it doesn't really necessarily depend on what race you are. I
for
mean,
sure.
if you're not dancing, it's probably just more like what you're exposed to. But like once you get into a type of music, like I think we all feel it the same way,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So I've went and actually stalked you on Instagram, seeing that you have played at some very, very big festival. What
Yeah.
was one of your highlight festival that you played at?
Yeah. Um, I'd say Africa Burn.
Okay.
Yeah, Africa Burn was definitely one of my highlights because the first time I ever played to a crowd was at that festival. Before that point, I was just a bedroom DJ,
Wow.
just recording mixes. But yeah, like it was a God-given opportunity. Whereas there was already a lineup, but then they were like at 12, if the DJ doesn't come through for their slots, you guys can play.
Mhm.
So I was DJing with a friend of mine, Sai, at the time. And 12 o'clock came, the DJ was not around, and they were like, okay, you guys have the floor. And I remember being very nervous because it was like a very big crowd, like just people ready to party. But like at that point, I wasn't a seasoned DJ, I'd say. So yeah, it's one of my first parties played ever, but also a highlight in terms of how big the festival was and just in terms of how big the scene is there, you know.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
So, playing, Africa band, that's huge. So when it comes to DJing, are you self-taught? Or did you take some lessons, friends?
Yeah, a bit of everything, like some YouTube videos, friends, also DJs that are already big, but then, I'd like ask them to mentor me, like, how do you DJ? And just see different workflows and then find myself within that, like, what's comfortable for me, you know?
Yes. The reason why I asked that is because, DJing, depending on who you talk to, has a different, people look at it different. And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand the talent side of DJing. If you had to kind of like put it out there to somebody for them to understanding DJing, what is actually the art of DJing?
So the art of DJing is, I think, selection more than anything.
Song selection.
Yeah, because I think if you learn the technical side of it, anybody can DJ then, in theory, But it's more about the selection, the timing, reading an audience, because sometimes you think you